First of all, she is destabilising Rishi Sunak. Secondly, she is positioning herself to be one of the contenders should he no longer be leader of the Tory party. If that's before the election, that would mean she's trying to get herself in the running to be Prime Minister. If that is after the election, then that would be leader of the opposition. But Jay, did you notice that? We are actually talking about the Conservative Party potentially thinking again about who the leader is in this party. There are two massive obstacles right now that Rishi Sunak cannot avoid. The first is this legislation, the emergency legislation that probably few viewers have particularly paid attention to, is suddenly now the most important thing in the Prime Minister's in tray. He has to get this through Parliament, but it takes just 29 Tory MPs to vote with the opposition in order to stop it going through. He doesn't get this through, I don't know where that leaves his premiership. And that test is going to come next week and the week after. The second problem that Rishi Sunak faces right now is that some MPs clearly have no confidence in Rishi Sunak and are saying so and are submitting letters to the chair of the backbench Conservative organisation in 1922.
Wow, Sam. Fascinating morning. The other big story this morning is, of course, the former Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who is appearing for his second day in front of the COVID-19 inquiry in Paddington. That has now started. Let's listen in and see what's happening there.
You'll recall that in the summer of 2020, on the 23rd of June, in fact, you announced the adoption of the 1 metre plus rule. It is obvious from the material that, and you refer to this in a cabinet meeting or a meeting in the Cabinet Office on the 2nd of June, that the underlying scientific advice was that staying 2 metres away from other people remained the best way of reducing coronavirus transmission. But it is equally apparent that there was clear economic pressure upon you to reduce the 2 metre rule in order to make business viable. Was the 2 metre, 1 metre rule issue a particularly acute example of that balance between public health, epidemiological considerations and economic?
In a way, it certainly was. But I think I would it wasn't quite as simple as that, because the 2 metre, your observation that the scientists were recommending 2 metres is, of course, correct, or many scientists were recommending 2 metres. Some were not. Some were saying 1 metre was all right. But it was also true that 3 metres would have been better, or 4 metres, 5 metres would have been epidemiologically more effective than 2 metres. It was a question of where to draw the line. And there was plenty of evidence from around the world that other countries had gone from down to 1 metre. There were other international comparators that had done it safely. And so, although you're quite correct that hospitality and other sectors were desperate to be able to operate, because it was very, very difficult under the 2 metre rule, it did not seem to me, on balance, to be epidemiologically unsound to do it. And I of course, had to balance the very considerable hardship that was being caused to people by the effective closure of hospitality as a result of the 2 metre rule.
I posed the question the way that I did because I've actually quoted your own words from the summing up of that Cabinet Office meeting on the 2nd of June. Summing up, the Prime Minister said the underlying scientific advice, so obviously the combination of the various views that you'd received, was that staying 2 metres away from other people remained the best way of reducing coronavirus transmission. There was no doubt about
3 metres would have been even better.
Indeed, but there was no doubt at all that epidemiologically, the pre-existing 2 metre rule was the best way to proceed epidemiologically. But you were under understandably intense economic pressure to try to take a different path in order to be able to alleviate the economic burden.
And there were plenty of other countries that had done the same.
That debate took place, of course, in advance of the Eat Out to Help Out scheme, which was put into place in August in those mid-week days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday of the 4 weeks of August. In your statement, you make plain that you and the Chancellor thought that there was a sound policy rationale for the introduction of the scheme. Were the policy rationales, firstly, the obvious economic support for the hospitality sector, but secondly, to influence social behaviour by incentivising the public to engage more generally in indoors hospitality? That was the thinking.
The thinking was that the country had made a huge effort, that we got the R down below 1, that the disease was no longer spreading in the way that it had been, and that within the budget of risk, it was now possible to open up hospitality. That being so, logically, if we were going to take advantage of that, if we're going to allow people to take advantage of, allow the hospitality sector to take advantage of the freedom that our collective efforts had won them, then it seemed to me to make sense to make sure that they actually had some customers. That was my thinking, and it seemed to me that if it was safe to open hospitality, then it must be safe for people to go to hospitality.
Do you accept, as Professor Edmonds said in his evidence to this inquiry, it's one thing to take your foot off the brake, which is, of course, what had been done in terms of easing the restrictions in June and July, but to put your foot on the accelerator is, by implication, quite different. He, in fact, used the word perverse, but I'm just going to suggest to you that it's a different thing to do.
Utmost respect for Professor Edmonds. All I would say is that at the time that the Eat Out to Help Out policy was being aired with me for the first time, it did not seem, it was not presented to me as an acceleration, simply something to make sense of the freedoms that we were already giving. And it was not, I must emphasise, it was not at the time presented to me as something that would add to the budget of risk.
But it wasn't being presented to you by the scientists, was it? It was being presented to you by the Treasury and the Chancellor of the Exchequer. The material makes quite plain that they were the ones who proposed the scheme. The paperwork makes that absolutely plain. And at the same time, your Chief Medical Officer, Professor Sir Chris Whitty, in particular at a COVID-S meeting on the 22nd of June, was saying that in general terms, the proposed easing of restrictions in relation to indoor hospitality was at the top end of the risk boundary. So you knew that there was an element of risk in this. There had to be a degree of epidemiological gamble. That's logical and fair.
I don't think that I thought that scheme in itself was a particular gamble at the time, and it certainly wasn't presented to me as such, nor am I confident that there is very substantial evidence that it did indeed add to the R, though, I defer to what your inquiry has discovered, but I can't see anything that conclusively shows that it made a big difference. At the time, it wasn't presented to me as something that would.
Could we have 232086, pages 1 and then 2? We'll stick with 1 for the moment. This is just to demonstrate, Mr. Johnson, that there was considerable debate between the Treasury and Number 10 in relation to a voucher scheme which became the Eat Out to Health Out scheme. This is an email from the Treasury dated the 22nd of May. It refers to the bottom of the page, the Chancellor asking her to thank all the teams as a meeting with you went very well. You complimented him on doing a great job. And then if we just go over the page to the middle, we can see a reference to presenting a plan for July. And then right at the bottom of the screen, Chancellor clear that should not do options in box at the bottom of the page, e.g. IT cut, people save, not spend, PM very keen on vouchers idea. So there was a general debate going on, obviously and sensibly, for some time before August, and you expressed your optimism, as it's been described, that the scheme was a good idea. The material does indeed seem to indicate that there wasn't a significant increase in infection after the scheme, although there is in the material some suggestion it may have gone up to some degree in different parts of the country, as you might expect. But you knew that the Treasury and HMRC had not in fact sought scientific advice on the epidemiological consequences of the scheme. That must have been apparent to you.
Well, I say in my statement that I thought that Chris and Patrick must have known or did know about Eat Out to Help Out, and I said that because it wasn't a very secret thing. It was I thought a pretty well publicised scheme, and I'm fairly confident that it was discussed several times in meetings in which I believe they must have been present. You know, I understand that they don't feel that they were properly consulted, and I remember being, but I don't quite understand how that can have happened, to be honest. I remember being surprised later, I think it was in September, when Chris says this is Eat Out to help the virus, and I thought that's funny, because I didn't remember any previous controversy about it. Mr.
Johnson, in June and July, you had a number of bilateral meetings with the Treasury and the Chancellor,
yes,
which the scheme was debated.
Yes.
There were no scientists present at any of those meetings, were they?
No, but it would have been normal for a project like that, a scheme like that, to have gone through the COVID-19 task force, and it seemed to me odd that the scientists hadn't been made aware of it.
So you knew they hadn't been made aware of it. You knew that.
Sorry, I don't think I said that.
It's not what I understood.
It seemed to me odd that the scientists. Oh, I see. Sorry. Do you mean now? It appears.
So I thought it was.
I apologise. I thought you meant at the time.
So my surprise was in, I think it was something like September 16th or thereabouts. It was quite a long time afterwards when I heard Chris in a COVID-S say, it's Eat Out to help the virus. And he looked at me meaningfully, and I thought, well, that's funny, because I didn't remember this being something that had previously seemed to attract objection or controversy.
But please, may we be clear about this? No scientists have been present at any of the bilateral discussions about the voucher or what became the Eat Out to Help.
Well, certainly not as far as I can remember.
No. The paperwork, and you've obviously received a number of papers, made no reference, did it, to this scheme being supported or proposed by the epidemiological experts?
It wouldn't. It didn't say that, but on the other hand, I wouldn't necessarily have drawn the conclusion from that it had either been opposed or that it had not been discussed with them.
And in your statement, you do say in terms, the scheme was, quote, to use your words, properly discussed, including with Chris and Patrick.
I did say that, and that was my belief. And I don't understand how that. I don't understand how something as well publicised as that could have been smuggled past the scientific advice. I don't see how that could have happened.
So that we're entirely clear about this, your statement appears to positively suggest that it was properly discussed, including with Chris and Patrick. You're the one who suggests in your statement that the persons with whom it was discussed included the CMO included the CMO and the GCSA. But now today, you're saying you're not sure whether it was discussed with them, and you're surprised that it wasn't. Is that the position?
The reason I said that in my statement is because I frankly assumed that it must have been discussed with them, and I'm perplexed as to how something as significant as that can have got through. There must have been several meetings of COVID-S and COVID-O, which it was discussed. So
You understand that you make a positive avowal. It was properly discussed. That word "properly" is your word, Mr. Johnson, not the inquiry's.
Well, that's indeed my memory, and I remember the scheme coming up several times, and that's why I was, as I've told you, I was surprised when later I heard that Chris was calling it "eat out to help the virus." And taken aback.
Enforcement. There was at the same time, of course, a constant debate as to whether or not, in order to promote proper self-isolation, in order to ensure heightened compliance with the guidance and the regulations, further enforcement was required, or whether or not, or perhaps alongside it, additional financial support should be provided. It was an obvious debate that had to be had. Did you have a position in relation to whether or not the cure for lack of compliance or for difficulties with self-isolation should be greater enforcement, tougher enforcement and bigger fines, or for the setting up of a more generous system for financial support for those who were self-isolating? Do you recall?
We did both. We instituted a compensation scheme for payments for those who are self-isolating from September, I think of about £500. But I also took the view that if we were going to have a system of enforcement, then it needed to be pretty firm.
Do you recall whether or not the amount for the payment went up between March 2020 and September? Was there any increase before September, Mr. Johnson? Do you recall?
Well, I remember the top whack fine was £10,000.
Well, indeed. You declared in a handwritten message, a handwritten note on a box note given to you on the 13th of August. I agree with the openings, but the overriding message, you said in capital letters, should be about tougher enforcement and bigger fines. But at the same time, it's notable that you in no way suggested that an alternative way, or perhaps a complementary way, might be to increase the amount of payments for self-isolation.
No, we did, as I've just said, increase payments for self-isolation.
That wasn't a suggestion that you made at this time, although it came in later, as you rightly say, in September. So your position was, it would appear, enforcement is the only way to go.
Well, that's obviously not quite right, because we did give quite generous payments for self-isolation. I think the concern that we had was that there could be difficulties, complications, abuse of any system of payments. We were already spending, as everybody knows, very considerable sums in support of all kinds. So there were anxieties about some of the implications of the compensation system, but because it was so important to go with self-isolation, to encourage people and to help people who needed support, we did go for the £500 payments.
On the regulations and the guidance themselves, evidence has been received by the inquiry from the former Home Secretary, Dame Priti Patel, that, in her opinion, there was a high degree of confusion surrounding the broad thrust of the regulations as well as their detail, and the inquiry has seen a diary entry in Sir Patrick Vallance's evening notes where you exclaim in frustration, but plainly perhaps not to be taken too seriously, who made these stupid rules.
Yeah, look,
was that against that context, Mr. Johnson? To what extent did your advisors and officials come to you over the summer and the autumn of 2020 and say there really is a distinct problem about the efficacy and the workability of these regulations? They're very difficult to understand and they're giving rise to a significant degree of confusion. Did that debate ever take place?
We did try to make the rules as simple as we could, but the problem was the effort did to get people to self-isolate, to avoid contact because of the complexities of human life, became extremely complicated. And I think we really need, for the future, to think about how we do it again. Because yes, it was very difficult to enforce. And I do have a great deal of sympathy for those who were the police, those who were charged with enforcing it, because it changed very often. I think there were 60 separate changes, and the complexities for the public to understand were very great.
Have you thought about how it might be done differently next time in terms of the promulgation of the legal superstructure?
Well, I think clearly it'd be a matter for Malay and the inquiry, but I think that there needs to be a great deal of reflection about the simplifying the whole approach and seeing what we can do to rely more on common sense and less on regulation and legislation. But there may be limits to that, and I'm not suggesting there is an easy answer, because the reason fundamentally in the UK why you need, and I say this to all the libertarians, why you need regulation is because ultimately people want to see everybody being obliged to obey the same set of rules, and they want their neighbours to do what they're doing.
But it must be noted that despite your declared libertarian tendencies, your own message to your advisors, as we see from that document, was bigger fines, more enforcement, a heavier hand.
So here's the picture. I was very concerned. I knew that we were basically in remission as we come out of the first lockdown. And the reason I go for things like Eat Out to Help Out is because I think it's within the budget of risk. But I know that we're going to face another wave, and I really want people, if we're going to avoid tougher measures, we need people to obey the existing strictures.
It was obvious to you, and we'll look at a WhatsApp in a moment, of course, by the end of July, that the United Kingdom would be hit by a second wave. That was epidemiologically taken for granted in terms of the examination of this viral pandemic. Well, we'll have 48399, page 25. You say it's completely obvious we're about to be hit by a second wave. It's about halfway down, just not halfway down the page. (8:10:48). Folks looking at Spain and France and remembering March, it is completely obvious we're about to be hit by a second wave. And on page 32, a month later, the 31st of August, in the same WhatsApp group, you say, page 32, we've seen the wave coming for miles, so we should be ready. And thank you. It's obvious that the government was concerned.
This is Starr Radio UK.
As you say, the prospect of being hit by a second wave. Did you therefore give consideration to the possibility of putting into place a formal system of segmentation? The inquiry has heard evidence how in August and September, the COVID task force considered whether or not it might be possible in advance of the impact of the second wave to consider a formal system of segmentation for the elderly. Do you recall that debate?
I certainly do, and I think that we were looking at all sorts of different solutions.
There were a number of meetings with the COVID task force. You say in the minutes of a meeting of the strategy committee, COVID-S, in September, a plan should be considered on segmentation of the population to enable a portion of the population to continue to live their lives as normal, that is to say, the remainder. Do you know now, can you recall why the proposals on segmentation were either impractical or not possible to be taken further? Do you remember?
And a lot of people, I kept having to explain this to people, and because intuitively it sounds like a very reasonable thing to do, to protect those who are going to be most vulnerable, principally the elderly and those with chronic conditions. The trouble is that when the R starts circulating above a certain rate, the velocity of transmission of the disease becomes so extreme that it just breaks the segregation that you've tried to impose. And that vulnerable population, a percentage of them, will inevitably get the disease. And as you know, a small percentage of a very large number is a very large number.
So if we look at 48399, which is the CSA CMO PM WhatsApp group for August, page 28, you entered into a debate with Sir Chris Whitty and Sir Patrick Vallance about the merits of giving the elderly a choice. And you say, in effect, why not give the over 65s a choice? They can decide whether to enter into spontaneous self-preservation and keep themselves, or run the risk of hugging their grandchildren and engaging fully in society. And you put that position to Sir Chris Whitty, and he says in the middle of the page, starting at 7:22:49 p.m, I agree it's entirely reasonable at an individual level. And then
it's the second paragraph is the crucial
indeed
one.
He says people can rationally make an informed choice whether they individually would take a small increased risk of dying by hugging their grandchildren or going clubbing, perhaps not the same people both hugging their grandchildren and going clubbing, but at a population level,
this is the
government is under an obligation to ensure that the epidemiological line is held so that the R rate doesn't then go back above 1.
This is Starr Radio UK.
So Chris, in that second paragraph, is making the essential point.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR, S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clemens, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business, the show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature online.
Are you looking for the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy door-to-door shipment company? Well, look no further. When was the last time your family received a shipment back in Ghana on time and in time? You are not sure? Well, Lamb Shippers, we pride ourselves with being the fastest, reliable, and trustworthy shippers you can use. You are assured of a prompt pickup anywhere in the UK by our personnel. They also make sure your items are well packaged to get to its destination in time. When it comes to door-to-door shipment, look no further. Well, Lamb Shippers, contact us on 07939009321 or 07498911820. Or you can visit our website www.welllamp.co.uk. You can also drop us a mail, info@welllamp@gmail.com. Well Lamb Shippers, fast, reliable, and trustworthy.
Hi there. Are you dreaming of owning your own house in Ghana? Then you will need a well-documented piece of land that is free from troubles. I highly recommend My Africa Property for any size of land that you will need. With My Africa Property, lands are available in Prom, Sopoli, Tohenia, Ogome, Dodova, Winneba, and many other locations at affordable prices. These locations are about an hour away from the airport, only 35 minutes from the motorway, 10 minutes drive from Central University College, 10 minutes drive to the beach, and close to Prom Senior High School and Ghana Men's Soccer Center of Excellence. For more details, visit our website www.myafricaproperty.com or call our UK office on 0208 123 2523. For our US and Canada offices, call us on +1 585 184 994145. You can also email us at ghana@myafricaproperty.com.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour Show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour Show is your best source into the property industry.
Tune in to On Point here on Starr Radio UK with Empress Regina every Monday at 5 p.m. GMT. Looking forward to your company.
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
All around the world. In your car,
At work,
at home.
on your smartphone.
This is Starr Radio UK. Are you ready to turn it up?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Though your heart is aching, smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you get by. If you smile through your fear and sorrow, smile and maybe tomorrow you find that life is still worthwhile if you just smile. Hey, this is Archie, and you are listening to Starr Radio UK and the Morning Show.
Welcome.
This is Starr Radio. This is
UK.
Starr Radio
UK.
This is Starr Radio
UK.
Welcome. Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Enlighten your day with Starr Radio. Starr Radio. Radio for the people, by the people.
Welcome.
Love for you runs deep. All of you makes my heart beat. You make a doubt they fade. Jesus, and that's what makes you great. You hold the world.
Okay, let me say massive good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth and those of you on other planets as well. I want to salute each and every one of you and welcome you to the Thursday edition of the morning show. Today is the 7th day of December, the year 2023, with a time now exactly at 20 minutes to 11. Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London.
You will never change. You remain the same to the end. To the end. You are God.
And as I would normally do, let me put it this way. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you wherever you might be on planet Earth and those of you on other planets as well. We want to salute each and every one of you and welcome you to the program. And I'm saying good morning to Mr. Francis Guy, my able producer, and my colleague and co-presenter, Mr. Olaimi Kweke, who will not be able to join us because we need to take a dive into something during the course of the program. So I'm doing my best because there's going to be the Prime Minister making a speech at 11 o'clock. We'll do our best to capture everything, but by 12 o'clock we'll bring the whole program to a close. So wherever you are, stay glued to your sets. Don't touch the dial because we're going to smash the program. All right then. Let me say morning to Anthony Adedaji Aziz. Good morning to you. Shamsuddin, good morning. Rachel, good morning to you. And then all the way in Lagos, Nigeria, my own Bishop Adesina and the team in the RBS office in Lagos, Nigeria. I salute each and every one of you. Pastor Momo, good morning to you. Pastor Emmanuel Chini, good morning to you. My brother Felix, good morning to you. Kojo D, Dr. Morton, Mr. Kid Yosin, and you all wonderful people who tune in each day to listen to us wherever you are this morning. I salute each and every one of you. But a special good morning also goes to Regina Enima, presenter of the On Point show. She says it's a bit under the weather, so she's wrapped herself warm under the blanket, listening to Starr Radio UK. Evia, good morning. Okay, so this is how the program is going to go. I'm just going to bring you the quotes of the day, the weather forecast will follow suit, then the travel update, and we'll try to bring you everything that you need to know pertaining to what is happening across the globe that is known as global trotting. We'll do our best to see how many stories that will come through from Nigeria as well. Then when we have the Prime Minister making a statement this morning, we'll move in there to bring you that one as well. Then at 12 o'clock, after that, we'll try to capture on other stories. But after that, we'll bring the whole program to close at 12 o'clock. So, wherever you are, keep your dial so logged on Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And it's 17 minutes to 11. But I remain yours sincerely, the one and only.
This is the morning show with Archie. All of you makes my heart.
Well, at the moment, the former Prime Minister is being grilled once again. That's what we brought to you earlier on at the COVID inquiry that is taking place in central London. Yes, where he is at the moment.
The hand that made me.
So the quote of the day says, as you show love and concern in the little things, you will have more love to give and more love to enjoy as well. So do you think you are showing love in the little things? Well, somebody say yes, somebody will say no. But what about you? Listen to Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now moving on straight to the weather front as well. This morning we'll start with the overcast skies and lingering spells of rain. During the afternoon, a band of heavy rain will sweep in from the west, cloudy and wet for the rest of the day. Now this evening we'll start with largely cloudy skies, but clear spells will quickly start to develop. It will be largely dry with clear skies throughout the overnight period. Welcome to the temperatures. Top temperature is going to be 8 degrees and low is going to be 5 degrees. UV level is going to be low and pollution is going to be low as well. Sunset 15:52 and sunrise for tomorrow morning 07:51 hours.
Love for you runs deep.
This is Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. And I'm going to take you straight to the travel this morning. So on the travel this morning, yes, on the underground, the Central Elizabeth Metropolitan lines have all got minor delays. That aside, all they are running a good service. London Overground, DLR and London Tramlink, good service there as well. But keep your eyes on the roads as we take you through the travel this morning on the major roads in London. A12, A316, A40, South Circular A205 are all having or experiencing serious delays. That aside, all the others are running a good service there. No extraordinary delays there, so you can zoom through it like no man's business. Now the river bus has also got the Woolwich ferry that's got reduced service. That aside, the others are running a good service there as well. Keep your eyes on the roads. Keep your eyes on the roads as you keep it updated. I promise I'll bond. I'm moving on straight to the London cable car this morning. I can tell you I saw the good service there. And that brings us straight to the end of the updates, and that is the National Rail. Now on the National Rail, C2C has got special service, Chiltern Railway special service, Cross Country special service, East Midlands Railway special service, Gatwick Express no service, Great Western Railway special service, Greater Anglia special service, Heathrow Express special service, Northern Rail minor delays, ScotRail special service, South Western Railway special service. Then finally, Southern has also got minor delays. So if you can avoid them, do your best to avoid that. That aside, all the others are running a good service there. And as I would say all the time, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good dawn to you, wherever you might be on planet Earth. Enjoy your commute for today. But you know what? Continue to keep this eyes on the road.
Getting onto the property ladder has never been easy until now. Join us this and every Thursday from 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. live on the Property Hour Show on Starr Radio UK, where we talk to mortgage brokers, property developers, estate agents, landlord, tenant, property consultants on how to invest or get into the property business and make money. You can't afford to miss this. The Property Hour Show is your best source into the property industry.
Welcome back to the program, Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. As I did say, it's a special program and I'm at the helm of it. The program will be brought to a close at 12 o'clock. We are waiting for the Prime Minister to make a statement this morning, and so we'll be going back straight to him. There's a bit of fire on the mountain. When I say fire on the mountain, in the Conservative Party, the migration route that is going there. Some are saying it's good enough, some others are saying it's not good enough. And yesterday the debate that was going on in Parliament wasn't a good one there, and therefore the Prime Minister is going to make a statement. What statement is he going to make now? Are they going to be leaving the human rights body in the EU, or are they going to say, okay, you know what, we're going to stay there and let's see what is going to happen? But with migration being a big issue, the Prime Minister is going to speak exactly at 11 o'clock, and I'll bring you everything that you need to know from there. Starr Radio UK. All right then. So now let's move on straight to some of the stories making the rounds this morning. Now, okay. All right, let me bring you that quickly. Now, when it comes to Nigeria, President Talon of Benin visited Nigeria leader Tinubu in Abuja. That's why President Talon of Benin visited Tinubu in Nigeria. Is one of the stories making the rounds. And NJC recommends 11 for appointment as Supreme Court justices. And then more woes for Nigeria's economy as PNG exit set to trigger a loss of over 5,000 jobs. Nigeria Ministry exceeded expatriate quotas revenue target in 2023, and National Assembly is saying, and COP28 NNPC Limited seals LNG deals for domestic and international markets. Now, Governor Oborevori mourns as Labour icon Frank Kokori dies at age 80. Now, Southwest lead in major revenue from customs reps, from customs. That's what the House of Representatives are saying, and that's quite an interesting one, because yesterday on the Niger Voices, where Mr. Olaimi comes your way every Wednesday at 18 hours UK time. Now, there was that debate going on, saying that look at what revenue the Southwest brings, and what can we say about the North? But you see, the majority of that money is spent in the North. But they are the same ones who don't want the Southerners to come there and live their lives the way that they want to, with the Sharia thing that they are bringing about. So we'll be looking at that. But wherever you are, don't you go away. Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. All right then. Now let's move on to some of the other stories making the rounds there this morning, and that pertains to what? Just bear with me whilst I just zoom through that quickly. All right then. Okay. So now let's move on to other stories making the rounds this morning as well. On the African continent, still there, Cameroon, President Paul Biya receives Gabon's coup leader, Oligui Nguema. The Cameroonian leader is the latest to host Oligui Nguema, who is on a tour of Central African states asking for lifting of economic sanctions. Well, will he or wouldn't he? And if he does, has he actually compromised himself? Because it looks like it's the same trend when it comes to him as well. But we'll see what happens there. And U.S. pledges climate aid for cities, more private sector finance. It's one of the stories making the rounds. And Uganda accuses U.S. of pushing LGBT agenda using aid and all stuff. And then sanctions are pertaining to that as well. And Nigeria's chief of army staff visits scene of deadly drone attack that killed more than 100 people in Nigeria. This is all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. In Morocco, earthquake victims struggle as winter sets in. And then in Nigeria, UN calls for impartial investigation after deadly attack. But are they going to see anything of the sort? Well. And the perpetrators be brought to justice if that was a mistake. I mean, this if it was another country going to blast that way or did that, can you just imagine what is going to happen? And they decide to also come after you, and it's going to be a full-blown war. But because of your own citizens, they cannot do much, so everybody have to be quiet and shush up. Well. Now, BCU versus OSP. You've no appellate jurisdiction over High Court, judge to OSP. The Office of the Special Prosecutor has incurred the wrath of the presiding judge, Justice Nicholas Mensah Abodakpi of the High Court in Accra Human Rights Division, over what the judge described as an appellate jurisdiction that they've not got. Interesting. That's all coming your way from Star Radio UK. In other stories, 8 persons killed during 2020 election, a dent on Ghana's democracy. It's one of the stories being carried with. We have every receipt for Baumia's lies. Bawa Mokhtari is also saying. Mahama meets Kwabena Dufour. Former President John Mahama has met former Minister of Finance Dr. Kwabena Dufour. In a Facebook post, the former president indicated that his meeting with Dr. Dufour was great, adding that their discussion was centered on winning the election. Yeah. So we'll see more about that as well. It's all coming away from Star Radio UK. Time for activating operationalization elections security task force. Jane Mensah to the IGP. Now, this is the same IGP that some people were plotting or hatching a plot to oust because they reckon that he will not give them the free hand to actually rig the elections or do their manipulation as they normally will. Star Radio UK. In other stories making the rounds in other parts of the world, 3 killed in university shooting in Las Vegas. The gunman was killed by police after opening fire at the Las Vegas campus of the University of Nevada. Senate Republicans block Ukraine aid bill. Republicans insist on tying aid to Ukraine to sweeping immigration and asylum reforms in the U.S. Well, so Putin will say, yes, bring it on. So, now Putin makes rare foreign trip to Gulf states. Russia's leader visited UAE and Saudi Arabia for talks expected to include the Gaza and Ukraine wars. The state of emergency in Seychelles after huge blast. Citizens have been ordered to stay home after a blast in an industrial zone causes major distractions. Some of the stories making the round. Bringing broken survivors of the Nova Festival attack back home, back from darkness. I just wanted them to be held inside the center, helping survivors of the 7th October attacks. Now it says Israel tanks shell Jabalia camp as heavy fighting continues in northern Gaza. Israel says it's striking Hamas strongholds in Jabalia, refugee camp. Now more fuel aid for Gaza, but fighting threatens distribution. Israel tanks surrounding Jabalia refugee camp is some of the headlines making the news making the headlines this morning. In other stories making the rounds this morning here in the UK, Prime Minister will fail on Rwanda and lose election. Braverman is saying she's got her dagger out and she is after him. All right then. Johnson says he didn't think it out to help out was particular gamble. Segregating the elderly will not work, Johnson says, and tougher enforcement and bigger fines, Johnson demanded in capitals. People want to see everybody obeying the same rules. But did he and his team and his crooks, let me put it that way, well, nothing of the sort. Now, shopping with cash rises for first time in a decade, and manhunt after boy 7 killed in hit and run crash. A vehicle drove off after a crash in Folkestone, which left a boy dead, Kent Police has said. UK weather warnings in force as heavy rain is expected as well. Gaza protesters block BAE Systems yard in Glasgow. Campaigners are urging BAE to end the ties with Israel and seize weapons, defense and supplies trading. Well, they are making money on the back of that. And they'll tell you these taxes are the ones that is helping you there as well. But what do you think? This and a lot more going to be coming your way. It's all coming your way from Star Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let's enjoy this tune while we prepare the ground for the next part of the program, where we might have the Prime Minister, or we go on straight to what is happening in Nigeria with updates from Nigeria. Stay tuned. This is African Christmas Praise Medley. Toby Lev Richards. Enjoy it, and I'll be with you.
Come on, you faithful. Come on, you faithful. Come on, you faithful to Bethlehem. Come on, you faithful. Come on, you faithful. Come on, you faithful. Everybody, lift your voices. Come on, you faithful. Come on, you faithful.
Starr Radio UK.
Somebody say, come on, you faithful. I know you know this one like this. Oh, come, all ye faithful. Lift it up, say, join to. Oh, come, to bread. You say, come and behold it. Come and behold from the King. Oh, come. Somebody shout it. Sing it like you.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Come on, you faithful. Come on, you faithful. Sing along. Oh, come on, you faithful. Yeah, yeah, yeah. One more time. Say, come on, you faithful. Oh, na, 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 oh, come on, you faithful. Come on, you faithful. Come on, you faithful. Take me up. Come on, you faithful. Come on, you faithful. Somebody shout. Oh, na, 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 na. You know the song. Variety. You say. Variety. You say. Variety. Come on, everybody. Clap your hands. Clap your hands. Clap your hands. You say. Variety. You say. Variety. Everybody, you see. Ooh,
This is Starr Radio UK.
Okay, listeners, Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. I'm going to take you straight to the press conference that is being held by the Prime Minister this morning. So wherever you are, just stay tuned even as I bring that your way. Don't you worry, I'm going to bring you all that music during the course of the program. But let's hear a bit from the Prime Minister.
Country. It offers opportunity, hope and safety. But the difference is, my family came here legally. Like most immigrants, they integrated into local communities, worked hard to provide for their family, built lives and businesses, found friends and neighbours, and most of all, they were really proud to become British. That feeling of pride, it cascades down the generations and grows, and that's why you see so many children of immigrants sitting around the cabinet table. But it's not a given. Illegal immigration undermines not just our border controls, it undermines the very sense of fairness that is so central to our national character. We play by the rules. We put in our fair share. We wait our turn. Now, if some people can just cut all of that out, you've not just lost control of your borders, you've fatally undermined the very fairness upon which trust in our system is based. That's why this legislation is so necessary, to deliver an effective deterrent to those who wish to come here illegally, to restore people's trust that the system is fair, and ultimately to stop the boats. And so our bill today fundamentally addresses the Supreme Court's concerns over the safety of Rwanda. I did not agree with that judgment, but I respect it. That is why we have spent the last 3 weeks working tirelessly to respond to their concerns and to guarantee Rwanda's safety in a new, legally binding international treaty. The Supreme Court were clear that they were making a judgment about Rwanda at a specific moment 18 months ago, and that the problems could be remedied. Today, we are confirming that they have been, and that unequivocally, Rwanda is a safe country. And today's bill also ends the merry-go-round of legal challenges that have blocked our policy for far too long. We simply cannot have a situation where our ability to control our borders and stop people taking perilous journeys across the Channel is held up in endless litigation in our courts. So this bill gives Parliament the chance to put Rwanda's safety beyond question in the eyes of this country's law. Parliament is sovereign. It should be able to make decisions that cannot be undone in the courts. And it was never the intention of international human rights laws to stop a sovereign parliament removing illegal migrants to a country that is considered safe in both parliamentary statute and international law. So the bill does include what are known as notwithstanding clauses. These mean that our domestic courts will no longer be able to use any domestic or international law, including the Human Rights Act, to stop us removing illegal migrants. Let me just go through the ways that individual illegal migrants try and stay. Claiming asylum, that's now blocked. Abuse of our modern slavery rules, blocked. The idea that Rwanda isn't safe, blocked. The risk of being sent to some other country, blocked. And spurious human rights claims, you'd better believe that we've blocked those too because we're completely disapplying all the relevant sections of the Human Rights Act. And not only have we blocked all of these ways that illegal migrants will try and stay, we've also blocked their ability to try and stay by bringing a judicial review on any of those grounds. That means that this bill blocks every single reason that has ever been used to prevent flights to Rwanda from taking off. The only extremely narrow exception will be that if you can prove with credible and compelling evidence that you specifically have a real and imminent risk of serious and irreversible harm. We have to recognise that as a matter of law. And if we didn't, we'd undermine the treaty we've just signed with Rwanda. As the Rwandans themselves have made clear, if we go any further, the entire scheme will collapse. And there is no point having a bill with nowhere to send people to. But I'm telling you now, we have set the bar so high that it will be vanishingly rare for anyone to meet it. And once you have been removed, you will be banned for life from travelling to the UK, settling here, or becoming a citizen. But of course, even with this new law here at home, we could still face challenges from the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg. So let me repeat what I said 2 weeks ago. I will not allow a foreign court to block these flights. If the Strasbourg court chooses to intervene against the express wishes of our sovereign parliament, I will do what is necessary to get flights off. And today's new laws already make clear that the decision on whether to comply with interim measures issued by the European Court is a decision for British government ministers and British government ministers alone. Because it is your government, not criminal gangs or indeed foreign courts, who decides who comes here and who stays in our country. Now, of course, our Rwanda policy is just one part of our wider strategy to stop the boats. And that strategy is working. I've been Prime Minister for just over a year now, and for the first time, small boat arrivals here are down by a third, even as illegal crossings in the Mediterranean have soared by 80%. Let me just repeat that. Small boat arrivals here are down by a third. To help achieve that, we've signed returns and cooperation agreements with France, Bulgaria, Turkey, Italy, and Georgia. Illegal working raids are up nearly 70%. 50 hotels are being returned to their local communities, and we are housing people in a new barge and in former military sites. The initial asylum backlog is down from 92,000 to less than 20,000. We've returned over 22,000 illegal migrants, and as our deal with Albania shows, deterrence works. Last year, a third of all those arriving in small boats were Albanian. This year, we've returned 5,000 people and cut those arrivals by 90%. And Albanian arrivals have far more recourse to the courts than anyone under this new legislation. That's why I'm so confident that this bill will work. Lord Sumption, the former Supreme Court judge, believes this bill will work. We will get flights off the ground, we will deter illegal migrants from coming here, and we will finally stop the boats. Thank you. We'll turn some questions from the media. Can we start with the BBC?
Thank you, Prime Minister. Chris Mason, BBC News. Are you saying to your MPs bluntly on all of this, back me or sack me?
Hi guys, this is your friend Uruj from SendWave. SendWave is a money transfer app that is used by people all over the world to send money to their loved ones in Africa. With SendWave, you can send money to Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. And the best part is, SendWave is absolutely commission-free. Our exchange rates are excellent. You can see for yourself by checking them out on our website. So how do you use SendWave? SendWave is an app that you can download onto your phone from the App Store or Google Play Store. The app is free to download. After downloading it, just open the app and enter your name, email, and phone number. That's it. You're good to go. Make sure you use the promo code SR. S for Star, R for Radio. This promo code will give you £5 free credit to send to Africa on your first transaction. Your money will be delivered to your recipient within seconds. Feel free to call me on 0749 7377 647 at any time. I'll be happy to tell you all about SendWave and help you in any way I can. Remember to use the promo code SR for £5 free credit. Medasse.
Hi everyone, it's your girl BB Clemens, the author of How to Go From Employee to Entrepreneur and the host of your weekly business show, BB Means Business. The show where we discuss everything you ever wanted to know about business but you were afraid to ask. How do I start my business? How do I raise the finance? How do I grow my business? Where am I going to find my customers? Join me every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. on Starr Radio UK to get all the information and tips that you need to become a successful entrepreneur and become financially free. Remember, don't let life dictate to you. Rather, put your signature on life.
Everywhere you go, Afrobeat reggae dancehall taking over. Everywhere you go, Afrobeat reggae dancehall taking over. Yo, what's up, people? This is a boy Raskin Bobo One. Tune in every day, every night at the Starr Radio UK with the big man them Archie. When I say Orta, you say fire.
Well, so we took you to 10 Downing Street where the Prime Minister had a press conference pertaining to addressing issues with the Rwanda policy. And Rishi Sunak has held this conference shortly as okay, and there are a few issues there that we'll be looking at during the course, though. Some people think that the Rwanda policy wouldn't work, but the Prime Minister is saying that with everything that needs that we have addressed, or he has in his team has, or his government has addressed, he is of the view that no courts will be able to stop it, and he is of the view that they could make it such that, well, Parliament being supreme on its own, will be able to make policies that the courts cannot challenge. So Parliament is independent and therefore can just make a policy. But however, we have this case that seems to be going on where Parliament makes a ruling and then some people take it to the courts and the Supreme Court come to just rule differently from that. So we'll see how it all pans out. But listen, it's Starr Radio UK. Let's go straight to Nigeria. Let's look at some of the stories making the rounds there. As I did say, the program will be brought to a close at 12 o'clock. So wherever you are, just stay glued to yourself. Don't even think of touching the dial. As I said earlier on, Yomi will not be here because he's supposed to be at the inquiry, the COVID inquiry where the former Prime Minister is this morning. But let's look at the stories making the round this morning. There are two stories that I'll try to touch on because we are pressed with time this morning. One pertains to the Southwest in major revenue from customs, and you look at the issue where people go to live in the north and they are not being allowed to, maybe they want to trade in their alcohol or have a pub, and also they say no, you can't do that. Meanwhile, the same monies that is being generated or taxes that are being generated from those industries are the ones that is also helping to actually run their affairs in the north. So you ask yourself the question, what exactly is going on? But I'll be telling you more about all that in a moment. So wherever you are, don't touch the dial. Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. So let's kick off with that. The House of Representatives Committee on Customs and Excise has said that the Southwest region produces majority of revenue coming from the Nigeria Customs Services. This is as the law said that they would ensure that only career custom officers will be appointed to the position of Comptroller General of Customs by the Custom and Excise Management Act. Now, Chairman of the committee, Leke Abedjide, stated this at the inauguration of committee members in Abuja on Wednesday. He also said the House of Representatives plan to conduct periodic reviews of customs and excise laws to ensure that they remain relevant and effective in the face of changing economic and technological landscapes. The lawmaker described the passage and signing of the Customs and Excise Management Act as a major milestone in the efforts to streamline customs procedure, enhance trade facilitation, and improve revenue generation and promote economic growth. He said the NCS is a big institution with a lot of commands which are divided into zones A, B, C, with the Southwest falling into the Zone A category. According to him, most of the revenue comes from Zone A, which comprises Lagos, Ondo, Ekiti, Oyo, Osun, and Ogun State in the Southwest regions. He said Lagos has a higher seaport among the 6, adding that the Zone B came from Kwara, Kogi, Niger, and the Northwest, while Zone C fell within Rivers and Southeast. So if you look at the percentages of what is being used or generated from these areas, I know some will be saying that look, it's because of its position. So things that are coming from Benin into Nigeria, the taxes, and then because of the ports there, because Lagos has got the major ports there, so that's why they are generating lots of funds, because everything that comes to Nigeria, most of, I'll call it 90%, will be coming through those ports there, and therefore they have the tendency of taxing them. But when you have industries like the alcoholic beverage industries and other things that maybe people from the north think, now we don't need to do that because of their Sharia or whatever they believe in, and therefore think that, you know what, we will not allow you to practice this. Meanwhile, they are enjoying revenues that is coming from that point. So do you think that the regional system will do for the country as a whole? So we have a regional system, everybody uses their destiny, and then maybe a percentage of it's contributed to the federal or the national. Do you think that would do for them as a country? Well, let me know. Let me say good morning once again to Anthony Adedeji. Thank you very much for listening in and for your love as well. Let me also say morning to, is it Iyaya Bosha? Iyaya Bosha, good morning to you as well, and to every one of you tuned in this morning, wherever you might be listening to us from. The National Judicial Council has recommended 11 justices of the Court of Appeal for revelation to the Supreme Court bench. The NGC Director of Information, Shoji Oye, said in a press statement on Wednesday that the council took the decision at the 104th meeting after considering the list of candidates presented by the interview committee. The Wednesday meeting of the council, chaired by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Olukayode Ariwola, who doubles as the NGC's chairperson, also recommended some heads of courts and other judicial officers for federal and state courts in the country, according to Mr. Oye. Now, currently, there are only 10 justices on the Supreme Court bench, which is 11 justices short of its full complement of 21 judges. Okay? So let's see what is going to happen there. The recommendation of the 11 justices to fill the opening of the Supreme Court bench was made by the NJC to President Bola Tinubu, who has exclusive powers to approve the appointment of the candidates subject to Senate confirmation. Now, if the appointment of all the candidates are confirmed as soon as possible, the Supreme Court will have its full complement of 21 justices for the first time. But the question that I will ask again is, will that foster well for the rule of law in the country? Or when it comes to the judiciary, are we going to be seeing, justice being, delivered for people? Or it's going to be just one of those things, rubber stamps, pam, 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 pam. Is that what it's going to be? But well, it is all coming away from Starr Radio UK. Few times we have President Talon of Benin visiting the new president, Bola Tinubu, or the president of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu. Now, President Bola Tinubu says cooperation is imperative for economic prosperity in West Africa, noting that a lack of synergy between Nigeria and Benin Republic has been an encumbrance to mutual development. Now, speaking when he received President Patrice Talon of Benin at the State House in Abuja yesterday, President Tinubu said Nigeria and Benin Republic share a lot in common, describing both countries as conjoined twins held together at the hip. Now, we are one. No other nation like ours should be worried. What is affecting us is a lack of synergy. We have not developed the necessary economic synergy that will develop our two nations. We must have common economic principles and priorities. The economic program you are developing through interministerial collaboration is welcome by me. We will support all of our private sector interests to facilitate prosperity in both of our important countries. I appreciate the urgency of your approach and we welcome this. Now, leadership is sometimes defined by urgent action. Thank you for your quality leadership. We are together. I'm not backward-looking person. I look forward. This is how I avoid missing steps, the president said. Now, President Talon, who was at the State House to seek the support of President Tinubu on improving trade relations ahead of the Economic Community of West Africa States Summit, described the relationship between his country and Nigeria as crucial. He said Benin Republic is seeking stronger trade ties with Nigeria, emphasizing the free movement of people and goods between both countries. Now, Benin has started implementing a national development plan which includes enhanced integration between Nigeria and Benin Republic. Our development plan includes taking into account what investments are required in Benin to enhance our integration with Nigeria in trade terms. It is true that many agreements have been signed to push our integration forward, but they have not been implemented. At the level of ECOWAS, we embrace free movement and integration at the African level. AFTA envisages this, so we need to move urgently to make this a reality. He went on further to say our investment program must be revised to factor in all factors of the Nigerian economy. We seek to set up an interministerial technical committee that will jointly prepare a draft document for our legislatures. I am ready to sign an executive order to appoint members of the council to advance mutual beneficial cooperation across sector. There have been difficulties bilaterally on the issue of smuggling. We will work hard to coordinate and ensure that your interests are protected as we integrate our economies. I want us to make history together, President Talon said. Now let's see how Nigerians are going to be taking that in, and let's see how it all pans out for them. Okay, it's a good one. Why not? Why not? It's a good one there. But listeners, this is all coming your way from Starr Radio UK. If you are listening to us and you think, that's sorry, we don't think that is a good thing there, then please let us know. Well, the UN has been calling for a thorough investigation into the Kaduna massacre that took place. Now, but the US are saying things to know about. Okay, just bear with me. Just bear with me whilst I try to get that story. Okay, just bear with me. I'm trying to get that story. Okay, I think it's eluded me. It's eluded me. So, hopefully. Okay. Well, the UN has said that the Nigeria should see to it that they investigate thoroughly what has happened in Kaduna. Now I think I've got it. Okay, when I bring that story, I click on that story. It brings up another story completely, and that is why. So let's leave that for tomorrow, God willing. We'll be bringing you more on that once we have Mr. Olaimi Koiki on as well. But with the finances that is coming out from taxes from the various regions. What do you think Nigerians should do? Do you think that maybe the federal system will need to dock it and use the regional system, let every region develop whatever they want, and then out of there raise their own funds and then contribute some of that funds to the state as a whole? Or the nation? Do you think that maybe that will pan out well for Nigerians and will let leadership sit up and make sure that they are doing the right thing? Well, it is all coming your way from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Let's move on to other stories making the rounds this morning. But that will be after. Okay. Because we are pressed with time, we bring you everything and then I bring you some music and then we bring the program to a close. As I said, we bring the program to a close at 12 o'clock exactement. Now, in other stories making around this morning, immigration for that is in Ghana, that's in the UK. Now, Cameroon President Paul Biya receives Gabon's coup leader Olusegun Nguema, and then the US is saying that the war between the Sudanese war crimes have been committed on both sides. And DRC 5 years after the political changeover, no peace in the east. No peace in the east. It's one of the stories making the rounds. And Uganda accuses US of pushing LGBT agenda. So, let's start it from here. Cameroon's President Paul Biya on Wednesday welcomed Gabon's transitional president Brice Oligui Nguema to Yaoundé for a short state visit. Now, the Cameroonian leader is the latest to receive Oligui Nguema, who is on tour of Central African states asking for the lifting of economic sanctions on his country before the 2025 elections. Now, Nguema said he and President Biya discussed this in their closed-door meeting with some officials and how to boost economic ties between both nations. Now, Nguema, who did not share specific details of the meeting, is reported by sources to have explained the reasons behind the coup and outlined the work of the transition he's leading up to the organization of their country's next democratic election. The Gabonese strongman later met several hundred Gabonese civilians in Yaoundé, where he justified his rise to power, vowing it was to improve living conditions in their oil-producing nation that was ruled for 56 years by the Bongo family. Now, if he says that, what does the Cameroonian leader think, Paul Biya? Now, Nguema 2-hour closed-door meeting with Biya ends the tour, which has taken him to Chad, the Central African Republic, Equatorial Guinea, the Republic of Congo, since he seized power in August. The general led a coup against Ali Bongo on August 30, moments after Bongo, whose family ruled the West African state for 55 years, was declared winner of a presidential election, which the army and opposition declared fraudulent. Well, it's all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Okay, still bringing you some more stories. Well, the United States on Wednesday accused Sudan's armed forces and the paramilitary rapid forces of having both committed war crimes during the brutal fighting between the two sides over the last 8 months. The United States also said the RSF was guilty of ethnic cleansing and crimes against humanity. The war between Sudan's military led by General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and the RFS led by Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo began on April 15, plunging the country into chaos. At least 10,000 people have been killed and 6.3 million people forced to flee their homes. Now, based on the State Department careful analysis of the law and available facts, have determined that members of the SAF and the RSF have committed war crimes in Sudan. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken said in the statement, "I have also determined that the members of the RSF and allied militias have committed crimes against humanity and ethnic cleansing." Listeners, this is Starr Radio UK. This is the Thursday edition of the morning show. Now, in the DRC, in 2019, Felix Tshisekedi succeeded Joseph Kabila as president of the Democratic Republic of Congo and pledged to do everything possible to bring peace to the east of the country, scarred by 25 years of conflict. 5 years on, peace is still elusive. Now, in his inaugural speech, he gave priority to the pacification of the entire national territory. On a visit to the east of the country, that is in 2019, he declared, "Believe me, I am prepared to die to make this peace a reality." A so-called large-scale military operation is launched to eradicate the ADF, that's Allied Democratic Forces, which are pledged allegiance to the Islamic State group. In response to the armed groups intensifies its massacres of civilians. In 2021, he proclaimed a state of siege for the province of North Kivu and Ituri, which comes into effect on 6th of May and replaced the civilian administration with military and police officials. In 2021 November, with his agreement, Uganda launches a military operation against the ADF in the north part of Kivu, later extended to Ituri. The M23 rebellion, which has been dormant for 10 years and is supported by Rwanda, resumes its offensive in the southern North Kivu. Now, in 2022, two private planes, military companies, Agemira RDC and Congo Protection, have been contracted by the Congolese government to help fight the M23 advance. They employ a total of more than 1,000 men, mainly from Eastern Europe for the troops and from France for the managers. In May 2023, during a visit to Botswana, he criticized the East African Community Force, which has been deployed in the east of the DRC for several months, with his agreement to fight armed groups, criticizing it for cohabiting with the rebels. The day before, the Southern African Development Community, SADC, announced the deployment of forces in Eastern Congo, but this has not yet taken place. Now, it goes on and on and on and on. Now, let me come to the end of September 2023. The president and several members of the government acknowledged that armed groups and volunteers for the defense of the homeland are being used as auxiliaries to the armed forces to counter the expansion of the M23. He announces a gradual and progressive easing of the state of siege. The Kenyan troops of the East African Community Regional Force begin their withdrawal from DRC after Kinshasa fails to renew their mandate. So that seems to be what has happened there. But the issue is, what are they going to do about it? Is there going to be a peaceful election? Or is it going to be one of the elections in Africa? You know, when I say one of it, you got it. You catch my drift? Yeah. But what do you think? This is all coming away from Starr Radio UK. Uganda staunchly criticizes on Wednesday the United States' recently expansion of visa restrictions on its officials, interpreting this as an attempt by Washington to enforce the LGBT agenda in Africa. Now, these new sanctions unveiled earlier this week target Ugandan individuals who were not formally identified. According to the US, they are responsible for undermining democracy and suppressing marginalized groups, including the LGBTQ community. Henry Okello Oyem, State Minister for Foreign Affairs, insisted his country will not backpedal on the adoption of his bill. He said there was no doubt regarding the fact that some groups in the USA and in the West seek to bring Africans and Ugandans to accept same-sex relations using aid and loans as leverage. How true is that? Listeners, Starr Radio UK, 11:34 the time. We come to Ghana as well before we take a musical break and then come back on. Now, there have been a surge in some billboards popping up around the country. And one of it is in Accra at the moment. But special aid to the former president, John Dramani Mahama, Mrs. Joyce Bawa Mokhtari, had dared Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia to a credibility test on the account of Dr. Bawumia's own past statements abundantly available over the internet. Now, speaking this morning, Bawa Mokhtari insisted the opposition National Democratic Congress has a gamut of publicly available evidence to prove that the MPP was coming to the market with a discredited good. You see, all his past speeches and social media messages and comments, it is the reason he cannot make noise anymore. As soon as he opens his mouth, you will see all the receipts being given to him. As soon as he tries to change his pace, you will see the receipts being given to him, she contended. She recounted for all the 170 questions he posed in 2016, the list of persons who were suffering are suffering even more. That is quite an interesting one. But what do you think about that? It's all coming away from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Now, the Office of the Special Prosecutor seemed to be facing lots of hurdles or obstacles, let me put it that way, in the performance of his duty. Now, a court has also ruled that the special prosecutor cannot again pursue some other people, this time around Charles Bissell. But what do you think about all that? There's a lot more coming your way from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Okay. That story seemed to have eluded us this morning. Once again, we're trying to see. But boy, oh boy. It's like when they know that you're going to hit that one, they decide to. Okay, yeah, I got it. The Office of the Special Prosecutor has unintentionally become a focal point of ridicule during the high-profile case against Charles Bissell. Now, remember Charles Bissell, he's been with us here in the studio before, I think sometime a couple of years back. Now, the trial, which initially held promise as a demonstration of the OSP commitment to combating corruption, has taken an unexpected twist after the presiding judge, Justice Nicholas Mensah Abudakpi of an Accra High Court Human Rights Division, told the OSP it is abusing its powers. The judge described as a scandalous deposition made by the OSP in its affidavit in answer to a human rights action filed by Charles Bizu, was the secretary to the defunct Interministerial Committee Against Illegal Mining. Now, during the proceedings, the judge pointed questions at Seth Anson, the prosecutor from the OSP. Now, Justice Abudakwi required whether Anson had read the court's earlier ruling before including the contentious paragraphs in the affidavits. Now, Anson's response, "Not that I know of," which further fueled the judge's discontent. Now, before a formal hearing of this case, paragraph 21, 22, and 23 are struck out because they are scandalous, Justice Agbadakwi said. He added that the OSP has no appellate jurisdiction over the High Court. Whatever powers you have no appellate jurisdiction over the High Court. So, is the OSP up to task, or is it one of those where they do all things and everything and does nothing? What do you think? This is all coming your way from Starr Radio UK. It is your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. Bringing the time now to exactement 11:39. Now, one other story, and then we leave Ghana. So, assuming somebody is overage, but is still performing, and all his thoughts are working the way they're supposed to be, will you call for their dismissal? Well, a group of Ghanaian citizens, the concerned citizens of Ghana, are calling for the immediate removal of the Commissioner General of the Ghana Revenue Authority, Reverend Dr. Amish Adai Owusu Amwa, and Mrs. Julian Esiam, a revenue generation officer, from office, accusing them of occupying the position illegally. The group at a press conference on Tuesday argued that the GRA boss is overaged and is occupying the position illegally since his contract with GRA has long expired. The group lamented that despite following laid down procedures and petitioning the appropriate courts for his removal, Reverend Owusu Amwa has remained in office. It is disconcerting that almost 2 years after the expiration of his 1 year contract extension in 2021, Reverend Dr. Amish Adai continues to occupy his position. This has financial implications for the country, with taxpayers bearing the burden of a prolonged contract and its associated benefits, especially in the current economic climate. Now, the persistent silence on these matters fuels more suspicion that something untoward may be occurring between the government and the GRA boss, potentially to the detriment of the entire nation. We call for transparency and accountability in addressing these concerns to safeguard the integrity of our institutions and maintain public trust. Additionally, our background checks reveal that Reverend Dr. Amish Adai and Mrs. Julian Esiam have chosen to stay in office beyond the age of 60 despite their contracts being renewed until 2021. This brings into question the adherence to established retirement policies within the GRA. The group said in its release. The group therefore wants him relieved of his post immediately. But the question is, you say immediately. Now, if you bring another person there, what exactly is going to be the case? Is it does that mean that, okay, that contract, maybe because he's working, he's not working as an employee per se, but how do we even put it here? We have locum. So is he a locum? Is he working as a locum? So it's a contract, and then after a year or whatever, 6 months, got to renew it, and therefore maybe he's earning more, because when you're a locum, the organization doesn't pay your, let's call it, your holidays and your pensions. There are a few things that they don't, but I don't know how Ghana is like. However, if you are of the view that, well, is the same as he was there, or if a new person should take over, the same thing, and he is delivering his job or working as he's supposed to, then what's the problem? Or is it that some people think that it's my turn? Oh, Yomi is not here. Who would have told me how they say it in Yoruba? Yes? It's my turn. As the current president, Tinubu, was saying that it was his turn at the time. But what do you think about all that? This is all coming your way from Starr Radio UK, your favorite African and Caribbean radio station in London. We've got about another 17 minutes to bring the program to a close. Now, poet and actor Benjamin Zephaniah has died. Oh my goodness. Age 65, and family says he leaves a joyful and fantastic legacy. I know him very well. Oh, he's a Rastafarian. Oh my. Okay, I'll be telling you more about that, but just bear with me. Another breaking news coming through. UK is accusing Russia of a hacking campaign over several years targeting public figures, including MPs and journalists. Some of the stories making the rounds there, in stories making the rounds in other parts of the world. Now, police say 3 people have been killed in a shooting at the Las Vegas campus of the University of Nevada on Wednesday morning. Officers struck and killed the suspect, who remained unnamed, in a shootout. One other victim remains in a critical condition at a local hospital, police have said in a statement. Law enforcement sources speaking to the U.S. broadcaster described the gunman as a white former college professor in his 60s. So was he suffering? Okay. Now they added he had previously taught in Georgia and North Carolina. UNLV and all the other Southern Nevada system of higher education institutions across the state were to remain closed for the rest of the of yesterday. The university first tweeted at around 11:53 local time, that is 19:53 GMT, that police were responsible to reports of shots fired, were responding to reports of shots fired on campus. About 20 minutes later, the university said campus police were responding to an additional report of shots near the Students' Union building. It warned students at Beam Hall to evacuate to a safe area and to run, hide, fight, which is a common active shooter protocol in the US. Run, hide, then you can fight. Okay? Well, to the dead, we say may their souls rest in perfect peace. But was he having a mental breakdown of a sort? Or what exactly was happening to him? Well, we had President Biden flying to Ukraine and doing all and assuring Ukrainians of the support of the U.S. before the Gaza war started. However, the Senate Republicans have blocked a move to pass an aid bill for Ukraine after failing to secure border compromises they sought in exchange. The $110 billion package included $61 billion for Ukraine as well as funds for Israel and aid for Gaza. The White House has warned that U.S. funds for Ukraine could soon run out. A Ukrainian official said that the failure to secure more U.S. aid would mean a very high possibility that the war will be lost to Russia. Now, while Republican members are generally in favor of aid to Ukraine, some have sought to use the issue as a way of addressing mounting domestic concerns over the U.S. southern border. The senators, including every single Republican, voted 51 to 49 against advancing the bill, with 60 votes needed. The vote throws uncertainty into the future of the aid for Ukraine and sends lawmakers back to negotiating table with just days to go until Congress has scheduled winter break. Now, Republicans are insisting that any aid to Ukraine be tied to sweeping U.S. immigration and asylum reforms. Now, earlier on Wednesday, U.S. President Joe Biden said he was willing to make significant compromises on the border in order to get the aid bill passed. This cannot wait, he said, adding that Republicans in Congress are willing to give Putin the greatest gift he could hope for. Also on Wednesday, the Biden administration announced $175 million in a new security assistance for Ukraine from the supply of funding that has already been approved. The package includes ammunition, including missiles and artillery shells, as well as equipment to protect critical national infrastructure, the U.S. Department of Defense said in a news release. This is Starr Radio, okay? And this is the Thursday edition of the morning show. The UK is accusing Russia's security forces, the FSB, of a sustained cyber hacking campaign targeting politicians and others in public life. The government said one group stole data through cyber attacks, which was later made public, including material linked to the 2019 election. Amongst those targeted was an MP who told the BBC in February his emails had been stolen. Now, Russia has reportedly denied claims it is involved in such activities. Now, Foreign Office Minister Leo Doherty told the House of Commons that Russia's ambassador has been summoned and 2 individuals were being sanctioned. One of them is a 7 FSB officer. The group is accused of carrying out hundreds of highly targeted hacks against politicians, civil servants, those working for think tanks, journalists, academics, and others in public life. These mainly targeted the private emails of individuals following extensive research and the creation of false account impersonating their trusted contact. The U.S. is also expected to announce actions against the group. The group linked to the FSB, and especially the part of it known as Central 18, has been targeting the UK by stealing information from those in political and public life since at least 2015. Listeners, this is Starr Radio UK, and a couple of stories more. Then we come to one other story, and then we come to the UK front. And this time around, going to Israel with a war in Gaza. The Jabalia refugee camp in northern Gaza has seen heavy fighting as Israel tanks surround the area. The Hamas-run local authorities said about 100,000 people are still in the camp without a functioning hospital and at risk of starvation. No aid has reached the north since the humanitarian truce ended at the start of December. Yesterday, UN Chief Antonio Guterres warned that the humanitarian system in Gaza may collapse and public order could completely break down. His comments have been criticized by the Israeli Foreign Minister Eli Cohen, who called Guterres' tenure a danger to world peace. Now, Hamas attacked Israel in October, killing 1,200 people and taking 240 hostages, some of whom were released during a short-lived truce. Now, Hamas officials in Gaza say Israel has killed more than 16,200 people in its retaliatory campaign, including about 7,000 children. This is all coming your way from Starr Radio UK, and it is the Thursday edition of the morning show, now coming straight to the UK. A very sad story has been published this morning, pertains to the writer and poet Benjamin Zephaniah, who has died aged 65 after being diagnosed with a brain tumor 8 weeks ago. A statement posted on his Instagram account confirmed he died in the early hours of Thursday. The statement said Zephaniah's wife was with him throughout and was by his side when he passed. We shared him with the world, and we know many will be shocked and saddened by this news, it added. Born and raised in Handsworth, Birmingham, Zephaniah moved to London age 22 and published his first book, pen rhythm. Now, his work was heavily influenced by Jamaica, and as Zephaniah's profile grew, he was credited with bringing dark poetry into British living rooms. He also wrote 5 novels as well as poetry for children, and his first book for younger readers, Talking Turkeys, was a huge success upon its publication in 1994. On top of his writing work, Zephaniah was an actor and appeared in various dramas by the BBC series Peaky Blinders between 2013 and 2022. Zephaniah famously rejected an honor from Queen Elizabeth II over Britain's empire and links to slavery. Now, Benjamin was a true pioneer and innovator. He gave the world so much. The statement announcing his death said, through an amazing career, including a huge body of poems, literature, music, television, and radio, Benjamin leaves us with a joyful and fantastic legacy. A statement from the Black Writers Guild says, which Zephaniah helped establish, said, our family of writers is in mourning at the loss of a deeply valued friend and a titan of British literature. Benjamin was a man of integrity and an example of how to live your values. Others paying tribute include author Michael Rosen, who said, I am devastated. I admired him, respected him, learned from him, and loved him. Love and condolences to the family and to all who loved him too. And we loved him too. So we say our condolences to him. Few times he's appeared on TV and all sorts, and interviews, and I followed him very, very closely. So may his soul rest in perfect peace, and to his family, our condolences. Starr Radio UK. Now, Boris Johnson is still at the COVID inquiry where he said he never wanted to let it rip. Did it out to help out spark the second wave? He said, it is not clear. Did the Prime Minister want to let it rip? He said, no, he didn't want it to rip. But what do you think? This is all coming your way from Starr Radio UK. But another breaking news coming through. Ofsted inspection likely contributed to the death of head teacher Ruth Perry. That's what a coroner has said. How would they know that? You've not gone to the head of the person, so how will you know that? Well. Well, they are the expert, right? Yes, right. Okay. Now, Rishi Sunak's flagship Rwanda bill will fall or will fail in its current form. Zwella Braverman has said the Prime Minister finds himself in what could be the gravest crisis of his leadership so far, sparked by the resignation of Immigration Minister Robert Jenerick. Information coming through further. So the former Home Secretary said Mr. Sunak's pledge to stop the boat was a key to winning the next election. But the Rwandan bill, which was published on Wednesday, won't work, Mrs. Braverman said. The government's emergency Rwandan bill was designed to provide deterrent after the government wants but avoids the more radical option of setting aside European human rights law altogether, which would have been a step too far for the Rwandan government. And then the legislation, which must be voted on by Parliament, gives ministers the powers to disregard sections of the Human Rights Act. In the end, this compromise did not even satisfy Mr. Sunak's own Immigration Minister, Robert Jenerick, who surprised number 10 by announcing his resignation shortly after it was published. The Prime Minister has now split Mr. Jenerick's old job in two and filled it with MPs from the right of the party. The Sunak moved Michael Tomlinson from his post as Solicitor General to become the newly appointed Illegal Migration Minister and made Tom Pesglove the Minister for Legal Migration. Okay. As a result of the changes, the Rwandan policy will be part of Mr. Tomlinson's brief. Mrs. Braverman speaking this morning, said the stopping small boats coming to the UK is how we win the next election. Do you think that if they say we stop the small boat from coming into the UK, we'll win them the election? That is the question. But we'll continue tomorrow. And this is why I bring the program to a close for today. And let me say thank you very, very much for tuning in. But let me bring you or leave you with this tune this morning, which I first played. It's African Christmas Praise Medley. And it's from Toby Jeff Richards. It's a lovely one. Enjoy it. And I'll see you all tomorrow. Until then, I say bye-bye for now.
Faithful, come on, you faithful to Bethlehem. Come on, you faithful, come on, you faithful, come on, you faithful. Everybody, lift your voices. Come on, you faithful, come on, you faithful, come on, you faithful.
This is Starr Radio UK.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Somebody say, come on, you faithful. I know you know this one like this. Oh, come, oh, ye faithful. Lift it up, say, joy, joy. Oh, come, to bread. You say, come and behold it. From the King. Oh, come. Somebody shout it. Sing it like you mean it. Come on, you faithful. Come on, you faithful. Sing along. Come on, you faithful. Yeah, yeah, yeah. One more time. Say, come on, you faithful. Come on, you faithful. Come on, you faithful. Come on, you faithful. Take me up.
Broadcasting worldwide, online 24/7.
Thanks for listening.
You know the song. Variety, stupid. Variety, you say. Variety. Come on, everybody. Clap your hands. You say. Variety, you say. Variety. Somebody shout, somebody dance, everybody, you feel.